Welcome to the optical fiber communication. In today's lecture, I will discuss about the optical sources. Optical source is a device which converts electrical signal into optical signal so that it can be transmitted through the fiber. Now, for a light source to qualify as a source in optical communication, it should satisfy some of the following characteristics. Now we know that for the optical communication there are three windows. First window is at 850 nanometer having around 2 dB per kilometer loss. Then next is at 1300 nanometer and 1550 nanometer. At these wavelengths the attenuation is less. So the optical source should emit the light at this wavelength. Then for long distance communication we need the light which is having very narrow spectral width. So the optical source should produce a light with a narrow spectral width. Then when the source is connected to the optical fiber, the dimensions of the fiber are very small. So the optical source should be capable of coupling enough amount of optical power into the fiber. There should not be much loss during this power coupling. Now as the dimensions of this fiber are small, connecting the source to the fiber, it should be easy. Now the light acts as a carrier. The information is sent over this carrier signal. So this carrier is modulated and then the information is transmitted. So the modulation should be easy. Then for high data rate, the modulation speed should be high. Normally the light is modulated using the switching action, so the switching speed should be very high. Again the source should be reliable, and finally the source characteristics should not change drastically due to the environment factors. So we have the sources like light emitting diode and lasers. So in today's lecture I will explain the light emitting diode. To understand how the light is produced from the LED, let us understand the semiconductor. Now there are two bands, one is conduction band and one is valence band. The energy difference between these two is called as a forbidden band, and the energy is called as a band gap energy. Now there are two types of recombination takes place. When electron in the conduction band recombines with the hole in the valence band, it will not emit a photon. So this recombination process is called non-radiative recombination. In another process, when the electron in the conduction band recombines with the hole in the valence band, it produces one photon. So this is called as a radiative recombination. And for the optical source we require this type of recombination process which will produce the photons or the light. Again we classify the semiconductors into two categories. One is called direct bandgap semiconductor and indirect band gap semiconductor. In direct band gap semiconductor, the maximum energy level of the valence band aligns with the minimum energy level of the conduction band. In indirect band gap semiconductor, the two levels are misaligned. So because of this, in direct band gap material, direct recombination takes place and it will emit one photon. In case of indirect band gap material, because of the difference in the energy levels, the electrons have to make number of transitions to get recombine with the hole, and then it will produce the photon. So if you look at this figure, this is a direct band gap material. You can observe the energy level of this conduction band is aligned with the maximum energy of the valence band, and because of this, the electron will directly fall back and recombines with the hole, producing a photon. So this is a direct process. In one transition, it will emit one photon. But if you look at this indirect band gap material, the minimum energy level of the conduction band and the maximum energy level of the valence band are not aligned. So in this case, the electron will make first transition like this, and then it will fall back and recombine with the hole, and this will emit one photon. So in this case, electron has to make two transitions and then it will emit the photon. So the probability of producing the photon is high in direct band gap material as compared to the indirect band gap material. So if you look at the semiconductor materials, the silicon and germanium are the indirect band gap materials. So that's why these two are not used for the optical source. Normally for optical source we require direct band gap semiconductor material. Let us understand what is LED. LED is basically a PN junction diode. It is made from the P-type and N-type semiconductor material. The light is emitted from the LED by spontaneous emission. There is no requirement of external light. Without application of light, the LED will produce light. This light is emitted whenever the electron in the conduction band falls to the valence band and recombines with the hole. So if we consider the P-type and N-type material, then when these two are connected to form a PN junction, the electrons in the N-type will get attracted to the holes in the P-type material and recombination process takes place. So because of this, the electrons and holes will be attracted. They will recombine at the junction and it will develop positive and negative charge within this region. So the towards N-type material will get the positive charge, and towards P-type material we will get negative charge. This region is called as a depletion region. Because of this potential difference, we get a barrier potential. For silicon it is 0.7. And once this recombination is over and the barrier potential is created, for the remaining electrons, it is not possible to overcome this barrier and recombine with the hole. So at this point the semiconductor is in equilibrium state. Now when we apply the forward bias to this and the voltage is greater than the barrier potential, the holes from the p-type will now overcome this barrier and recombine with the electrons. Similarly, the electrons from the n-type will recombine with the holes. Because of this, current will flow through this. And if the material is a direct band gap material, then this recombination will produce the photons, which is nothing but light. So in this way, because of the application of the external supply, current will flow through this and electron hole recombination process will emit the photon. This is how the LED will produce the light. Now if you look at the energy band diagram, let us consider two energy levels E2 and E1. When electron falls to the E1 and recombination takes place and it emits the photon, the energy of the photon is equal to the difference between the two energy levels E2 and E1. It is given by hf, where f is the frequency which can be replaced by c by lambda. So the wavelength of the emitted light depends on the difference between E2 and E1. By changing the difference, the wavelength is changed. H is called as a Planck constant. Now the energy is very small, so instead of specifying the energy in joules, normally it is expressed in terms of electron volts. So if you know the energy in electron volts, then we can find the wavelength of the emitted light in micrometer as 1.24 divided by the energy difference in electron volt, not in joule. So let us look at the LED power and efficiency. The efficiency is indicated by two parameters, internal quantum efficiency and external quantum efficiency. Internal quantum efficiency is given as the number of photons generated to the total number of electron hole recombinations. Every recombination process may not produce the photons, so this efficiency is defined. How many photons are generated out of the total recombination processes. Then we define the external quantum efficiency. It is given as number of photons guided to the optical fiber to the number of photons generated. So if we look at the internal quantum efficiency, it depends on the intrinsic properties of the material and the manufacturing process of the semiconductor. The external quantum efficiency is related with how many photons are actually guided to the fiber for the communication, and the total efficiency of the source is nothing but the product of internal and external quantum efficiency. So let us look at this internal quantum efficiency. Consider the carrier density in the conduction band is given by capital N, which is equal to N0 e raised to minus t by tau, where this N0 is called as initial charge carrier density and tau is called average lifetime of a carrier against recombination. That is the time for which the electrons will remain in the conduction band. That time is called as a lifetime of the carrier. Now if we find the recombination rate by differentiating this equation, we'll find that this dN by dt is directly proportional to the number of charge carriers, or it is directly proportional to the carrier density. So we write this recombination rate as minus n by tau. So if we find the total recombination rate is equal to the addition of radiative recombination plus non-radiative recombination rate. So from this we will get the expression for this tau as 1 by tau RR, which is the lifetime against radiative recombination, and tau NR lifetime against non-radiative recombination. So now from this, if we define this internal quantum efficiency, then photons are generated only during the radiative recombination. So we'll write this equation. Number of photons generated is equal to the rate of radiative recombination divided by rate of radiative plus non-radiative recombination. So from this we'll get the expression for internal quantum efficiency. Now if we consider this lifetime against radiative and non-radiative recombination is equal, then we can see that this internal efficiency will be equal to 0.5 or 50%. That means if there are total 2000 recombinations, then 1000 photons will be generated. So then we define the external quantum efficiency, which is related with the actual photons guided to the fiber. To understand that, let us consider the semiconductor structure. Now this recombination and emission of the photon takes place at this stage. Then photons will be emitted in all the directions. Now consider if this photon makes an angle greater than critical angle, then that photon will be reflected back into the same medium. So this one factor is related with the external quantum efficiency. Again, when this incidence angle is exactly equal to the critical angle, that photon will travel along the semiconductor boundary. The photons will be emitted out of the semiconductor if the incidence angle is less than critical angle. So this is one factor which will decide the external quantum efficiency. Again, when the photon is emitted out of this semiconductor, at the semiconductor boundary, partial reflection also takes place. So this is another factor which will contribute to the external quantum efficiency. There will be some absorption process which will also affect the external quantum efficiency. So if we consider the first external quantum efficiency, which is related with this concept of critical angle, the photons will move out of the semiconductor if the incidence angle is less than the critical angle. So we get this equation where this Na is the refractive index of the outer medium and Ns is the refractive index of the semiconductor. Then when this photon is emitted, out of the semiconductor material, some energy of this photon will be reflected back into the same material, and because of that we get this second external quantum efficiency as this equation. Third one is related with the material absorption properties, so that is given by eta external 3. Now when this photon is emitted out of the semiconductor material, it will travel along the fiber only if it falls within the numerical aperture of the fiber. So again, this fourth factor contributes to the external quantum efficiency. So the total external efficiency will be the product of all these external efficiencies. So now if we consider this gallium arsenide, it is having the internal quantum efficiency of about 0.5. That is, out of total generated recombinations, half of the recombinations will emit the photon. So if we consider there are 2000 recombinations, 1000 photons will be emitted. And if we consider these typical numbers for the external efficiency for this gallium arsenide, the total external efficiency is around 0.001. That means if there are now 1000 photons which are generated, out of 1000 only one photon will be guided to the fiber, which is actually useful for the propagation. And if we find this total efficiency, then it is 0.0005. That is, out of 2000 recombinations, only one photon is guided to the fiber. So because of such efficiency, this gallium arsenide is said to be highly inefficient semiconductor for the optical source. Now this type of PN junction is called as a PN homojunction semiconductor. The spectral width of this LED is quite large. So instead of using this homojunction LED, which is having only one junction, another type is used which is called as a PN heterojunction LED. So if you observe this figure, it is having the first PN junction at this point and the second junction at this point. So when we apply the forward bias, this positive supply will repel these holes from this region, and this negative supply will repel these electrons from this region. Now the holes will overcome this first junction J1 and gets recombined with the electron in this region. So the recombination takes place and it will emit the photon. Again the electron from this region will cross this second junction J2, recombines with the hole and again produce the photons. Now when the holes cross this junction and recombines, if any hole is remaining in this region, it will be blocked by this second junction. So this hole cannot cross the second junction, so that the recombination rate within this layer will be increased. So this layer is called as a active layer, where this recombination takes place and it will emit the photons. So the spectral width of this double heterojunction LED is small as compared to the single PN junction. So there are two types of LEDs. One is called as a surface emitting light emitting diode. You will observe that this is the active region. This is a double heterojunction LED. This is the active region where this recombination takes place and photons will be emitted from the surface. So to couple these photons to the fiber, a well type structure is created and this fiber is inserted onto this active region so that maximum number of photons can be guided to the fiber. The second type is called as the edge emitting light emitting diodes. In this case, there is no any well type structure. The active region is here and the photons are emitted from edge of the semiconductor. So at this point the fiber can be connected and the photons are guided to the fiber. Thank you. In next lecture I will explain the characteristics of light emitting diode.